What is up, fellow bench warmers? Welcome to another weekly episode of Fantasy Bench Warmers. And of course, I am your host, Jeremy Tan or JJT. Kasama natin si Komish Eric.
Hello.
How are you,
Okay
sir?
naman. Good evening to everybody.
Yan. All right. So as always, well, as most of the time with our weekly show, we have a special guest tonight. And maganda to kasi over the past few weeks we've talked about the NBA, the playoffs, 'di ba? Pero recently, there's been some local hype, 'di ba, on the local basketball scene. And it's not the PBA, but it's the Gilas team. And we invited one of the columnists for FIBA and also Mr. Hoopnut. He is also an assistant coach of Ateneo Blue Eaglets. Medyo nag-research ako. Tama ba, Enzo?
Yes,
All
yes,
right.
yes.
So please welcome Mr. Enzo Flojo.
Hey guys, hey Jeremy, nice to meet you, and Eric, nice to see you again,
Yes, bakit yan?
virtually after a very long time.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to be here and to talk hoops, to talk basketball with you guys.
Sabi ni Eric, well, he was a bit surprised daw that you were with FIBA kasi when you were, to those listening or watching, si Enzo and Eric were blockmates, tama?
Yes,
Yeah.
Right.
yes,
So
in
we're
college.
blockmates sa Ateneo. And then, sabi ni Eric, parang nung college daw, medyo hindi niya na, parang you weren't talking much about basketball. Kaya medyo nagulat siya that you were, FIBA. How did that, paano nag-start yon? Yung sa FIBA
Well,
stint.
basketball's a big part of my life ever since I was young. I learned to play in Ateneo, grade school, ganyan. Tapos,
You were varsity.
actually tried out many times, but in a school like Ateneo, it's so big, so many talented players. In my batch alone, I think we had two or three guys. I think two guys who were drafted in the PBAs, and then batch ahead of me was sila Rico, Wesley Gonzalez, Rico Villanueva. Batch after me was Larry Fonacher. So you can imagine, it was a very talented
Yeah.
generation. So the short answer is no. I was never able to get into the varsity. Got past maybe the first cut, mga ganyan, pero yung to make it to the final 15 or 12, never made it that far.
Pero making the first cut, medyo ano na rin yun. Good.
Bad na.
Not bad
Oh,
na
I
yun,
mean,
no?
parang medyo, yay, okay, nakapasa ng una, and then biglang hindi na makakapasa
Saka
after.
yung time natin during our batch, that's the start of the pag-angat ng Ateneo ulit di ba? They were quite,
yeah.
hindi sila ganun ka-okay before we entered college and then nag-start doon.
Batch natin, BJ Manalo ata. Tama.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Kabatch ba? Tama.
When BJ, kasi when we graduated high school, BJ, I mean, most people from our generation probably remember that. He was expected to join Rico and Wesley in the college, sa Ateneo. But of course, he went to another school. And for a lot of people, oh my God, of all schools, diba, it's the arch rivals, De La Salle.
We were quite happy with it.
Lasal kasi yun.
I'm sure.
We didn't have any problems with it.
I'm sure, no. Kami, his batchmates, no, we totally understood his decision. Syempre, we supported him no matter what. But of course, a lot of people in the school community didn't really take it very positively. But it kind of led to some positive things, because of that, parang it was kind of an eye opener for the basketball program. Na if we couldn't keep this guy who's prep until grade 7,
true blooded.
True blue talaga.
True blue.
If someone like that could not choose our program, then that means we should do some reflection, introspection. Baka may kailangan tayong baguhin. And that's the same year we got Rich Alvarez. And then afterwards, we got Membrero the following year, then Tenorio the following year after that. So, it kind of, it was a step back, but it led to multiple steps forward for the program eventually. So there you go.
And what got you to FIBA, eventually? Is
Well,
this
that's an
recently
interesting.
or medyo matagal na rin?
Well, I my work with FIBA started around 2014. So medyo
Tagal
medyo
na rin.
matagal-tagal na rin,
Yeah.
yeah.
Tagal na pala.
Yeah. So back in college naman, I was playing in the IAC. IAC is like the intrams of Ateneo College. No, I was playing there with my friend, my barkada, classmates from high school, batchmates from high school, and then I think it was second year or third year when some of my closest friends and we eventually were given the opportunity to not only play in the intrams but actually organize it already. So we were the ones organizing the intrams for basketball for the college for around 2 or 3 years, and then from there some connections happened. Um, but after college, I didn't really get into media or basketball media so much. Playing in the alumni league, playing in the ABL, yes. No, playing in other leagues, yes. In 2011, I took a leave from my work, from my job, to finish my master's degree, and there was so much free time, aside from doing my master's thesis and everything. There was so much free time on my hands, so I started a blog, Hoopnut, and then just started writing. Mostly PBA, NBA stuff. Um, but I've always had a bit of a passion for the national team and for Asian basketball in general. I've been following it since God knows when. Siguro, I mean, the earliest memory I have of following Asian basketball, I think, was maybe way back in 1994. Asian
Mga
Games.
Jaworski ba yan? Jaworski Asian Games?
Actually, he wasn't playing in the national team anymore. That was
Norman.
1994,
Hindi,
coached by
1990 yata si ano. Tama
1990
ba?
si Jowo, when we won the
Jaworski.
silver medal, yeah.
Yeah.
94 was in Hiroshima. Coach Norman Black was coaching that team. The core of that team was
San Miguel. Ito yung
San Miguel.
Yeah.
Yes, kasi they won the All-Filipino.
Mm.
But they realized that they needed reinforcements. No? So they got Alvin, Jerry, they got some amateurs, Kenneth and Marlu. And then, of course, they borrowed Johnny as well for that tournament. No? Unfortunately, we finished outside of the podium. We lost, I think it was to Korea in the second round of the group format, and then lost to China in the semis, and Japan. We lost to Japan in the battle for third place. That tournament really stuck with me because those were my heroes. I mean, Alvin Patrimonio was my favorite player then. Then Codinera, Abarentos, superstars. How could these guys lose?
Those were the players at the peak of the PBA.
Yeah, definitely. Parang kulang lang siguro would be Benji Paras and Ronnie Magsanak. Sila dalawa lang yung parang kulang from that team. But everyone else was, pretty much top level elite PBA. So in my mind, parang medyo this is the closest we can get at that time to the dream team ng PBA. Paano tayo matatalo, di ba? Sino makakalabanin natin? But, Koreans were super good. Japan was playing at home, really motivated. China, of course, was extremely just too big. So we lost the last 3 games of that tournament, if I correctly remember. Finishing fourth, heartbreaker yun kasi parang we had a chance to win it. I think with a few seconds left, Ato Agustin had the basketball. I'm not sure if he shot a 3, but I'm sure it was a jump shot, but he missed, so we lost that game. So ever since then, parang there was a little bit of bitterness in my heart na hindi pwedeng hanggang 4th place lang ang Pilipinas. We're better than this, So I've been following, the Philippine team very closely ever since then. But eventually, I got to appreciate other kinds of basketball in Asia. I got to appreciate Korean basketball and China, and eventually yung mga galing Iran, Lebanon. So I've been following it very closely for a very long time. Siguro the first big break I got was maybe in 2012 or 2013. 2013, I think, when Rappler was just starting out as a website and they needed some people to write for their sports section. I guess someone from Rappler stumbled upon my work and then got me to write. So that was my first paid gig, so to speak, regular on the side writing gig for basketball. Eventually, I covered the FIBA Asia Championship that was held here in Mall of Asia Arena, in 2013. And from there, my network in basketball media just, kind of grew significantly. That was when I met TJ Manotok and eventually led into my stint in ABS-CBN in the UAAP. And I also met a lot of people from FIBA, and I guess they kind of like some of the stuff I put out. So they offered me a spot to be a columnist for them the following year in 2014. So I've been writing for them ever since.
So
And yeah,
you're following the global basketball,
yeah,
not just the Asian ones, I guess.
most I mean parang kumbaga sa newspaper, I'm on the Asian beat, parang
Okay,
ganon. But
okay.
of course you still have to pay attention to the top teams, especially from Europe,
Yeah.
before they joined Asia, Australia, New Zealand, syempre, some top teams in Africa, in South America. But yeah, siguro 90% of my focus is really on Asian basketball.
So you
Ayan.
have to watch the local leagues then, like Korean leagues, Japanese leagues, mga ganun.
Yeah, but syempre, I don't watch the whole games.
Yeah.
I keep tabs on the websites and the stats. That's why Google Translate is one of my best friends, diba? I mean, when I go on the Korean,
Japanese or
Japanese
Korean,
websites, Google Translate is my friend. But of course, I've made some connections also with those federations. So parang pag may kailangan akong tanungin, tama ba tong translation? I just throw it to some of my contacts and they give me some of the information needed. But yeah, highlights from these different leagues I've been watching regularly for God, maybe the past 6 or 7 years. And it's easy to find naman many of the leagues in Asia, especially Korea, Japan, even China. They have pretty good social media structures.
Yeah.
So it's kind of easy to find their highlights.
Tsaka it's these days, 'di ba? Sobrang bilis na rin ng like the world stage in basketball gets smaller eh. Unlike before na parang
yeah.
we don't really know what's happening in the Europe or in other countries ngayon or in Africa for example. Ngayon, ang bilis na lang eh. We know what's going on in Europe, we know what's going on in Africa, sino yung mga players doon. Much more of course yung Asia. Pero let's talk about Asia. Let's talk about Asia kasi recently the Gilas, what's your take on the current Gilas team right now? Apparently the Korean coach wasn't as impressed but
Alam ko hindi in-expect ni Enzo because I saw the prediction.
Oh, hindi talaga. I mean, magpapakatotoo ako. I mean, if you look at our team on paper, it's a team that didn't have a UAAP season or, we had no PBA players. They didn't have any high-level competitive basketball for a year.
Yeah.
And then, siguro with the exception of the November bubble in Bahrain. But apart from that, no high-level competitive basketball. These are college kids. The average age was 22. We had a new naturalized player coming in. We didn't know if he, would perform really well at this level. And then on the other side, we have a Korean team that's 9 out of the 12 players are professional players from KBL. They were missing maybe 6 or 7 of their top level guys.
When you
but still
say
a good
6
team.
or 7 top level guys, these are top talaga. Like,
oh yeah,
they're
parang
top 6 players.
Yeah. So siguro if you put kung ilista mo yung top 10 players ng KBL, literally 1 to 6 wala.
Okay.
Pero magaling pa rin to kasi
Yeah.
7 to 10 nandun, pati yung
And they're
naturalized players nila.
Pro players. They're not college players.
These are pro players. They had 2 college players and 1 high school player. Pero ito yung mga parang Kai Sotto level din ng Korea. So magagaling din talaga.
Yeah.
So, for me, objectively on paper, I felt we could be competitive. I was telling people, hey, we'll probably lose, but we're not going to get blown out maybe 8 to 12 points, maybe 15 at the most, mga ganyan. But a lot of people asked me, are we going to win even one game? And, I told them privately through DMs. I tweeted about it. I even wrote about it on Tiebreaker Times, a website I also write for, na we'd likely lose these two games. If I'm gonna
Against Korea.
bet, yeah, if I'm gonna bet, put money on those two games, the smart bet would be on Korea. That's what I
Yeah.
really thought on paper, objectively speaking. And when we were down by 17 in the first half,
First half, yeah.
that first game, I was
Parang
like,
doon na papunta eh.
oh man, parang oh my God. Wag naman 17, wag naman abot ng 20. Yun yung isip ko, honestly. But something sparked in our team. And I think, ito hindi ko nakita. I mean, their youth kind of worked in their favor because this was not a team that experienced, the previous heartbreaks firsthand. Some of them already played Korea in the Jones Cup, I think 2-3 years before.
Mm-hmm.
But that was still different. Parang these guys were too young to know how dangerous or good this Korean team was.
Yeah.
So parang wala silang pake. Parang basta kami, lalaro lang kami. We're just gonna follow the system and see where it goes. And slowly, yung 17 nababa sa 13, eventually nababa sa 6, sa 5, na tabla ni Dwight Ramos ng third quarter. So parang, sheesh. Parang, we might actually win this game. Parang, oh my God.
Pero Enzo, sabi mo, you think 8 to 10 points, malamang, yung talo.
Yeah.
But the last time we played Korea, alam ko, we were blown out with pro players. Diba?
That's true. That was in 2017. The last time, a Philippine national 2018 pala. The last time a Filipino national men's team played the Korean national team in either a FIBA or Asian Games match.
Yeah.
Was in 2018. That was with all PBA players.
Yes.
Coached by Yang Giao, who's a very good coach.
Oh.
And we had Jordan Clarkson. Yeah. We had Christian Stan Hardinger. We had Stanley Pringle. We had Maverick Amnisi. That was a very good team. Siguro ang kulang lang doon would be Japet and Junmar.
Well, on paper.
On paper, very good. Very talented, di ba? On paper.
Itong new Gilas team na to, itong naglaro recently, aside from maybe Kai Sotto, a lot of these players, or maybe Kwame, because he was recently naturalized. Aside from those, no one really knew. If you're not a big basketball fan, you wouldn't know who SJ Belangel is, or, di ba?
Yeah.
Dwight Ramos, maybe medyo kilala mo, pero I think baka he'd be more known as a heartthrob than a basketball player, di ba?
Totoo, mas kilala si Dwight Ramos as KKD's boyfriend.
Mas sikat pa yung girlfriend niya sa kanya, di ba?
Pero why the optimism? Why 8 to 10 points? Were you able to watch the practices sa bubble?
I was able to watch. I wasn't in the bubble, but I was able to watch some footage. And siguro that was my faith in in the coaching staff and in the system of Coach Tab and his experience. I thought that yung inexperience ng mga bata natin, yung perceived deficiency maybe in the talent level, kasi mga professional nga kalaban nila, I thought that Coach Tab and his staff, their scouting, their system would be able to compensate for that a little bit. But I didn't know it would completely compensate for it and lead to not one but two big wins against Korea. For me, that was huge. And even if we were playing at home, inisip ko, hindi na magiging factor yung home court kasi
wala namang crowd
Yeah, we're not gonna have 10,000 people, cheering after every shot or every rebound or every assist. So I didn't think that would be a factor. I don't think it was a factor. But these kids really just stepped up. And in addition to that, we had some injuries. I mean, Matt Nieto, parang weeks before, biglang hindi pwede. I mean, Juan Gomez Deliano wasn't in the bubble even. Ray Suerte also got injured. So you knew that this, whoever makes the final 12 is not the ideal, Gilas 12 that Coach Tab had in his mind when he was entering this bubble. So medyo kailangan ng konting rekta ad-lib, di ba? So talaga on paper, it would take a miracle for us to win both games. But well, miracles do happen. That's exactly what happened. So thank
Pero
you,
you
God.
think, Enzo, if the top 6 or 7 of Korea, yung best lineup nila, do you think may chance pa rin?
Mahirapan na si Enzo magsalita ngayon
That
kasi
that would be ano yan, Eric, eh? Parang yung missing players kasi ng Korea, these are game changers. These are really game. You're talking about the current MVP, who's a 6'8" small forward. You're talking about last year's MVP, who's the number one point guard in Korea, and the number two point guard in Korea. So they're actually missing their main backcourt. They're missing those. They're missing their top small forward. They're missing their top shooting
That's the son
guard.
of RJ.
Yeah, that's the son of her J, exactly. And they're
Okay.
missing, yung veterano nilang napakagaling na sentro na kinain tayong buhay nung 2017 Asia Cup, si Kim Jong-kyu. I mean,
Okay.
pag nandun siya, tsaka si Ratliff, that would be a total game changer. I think we'd probably still be competitive, but the chances of beating them would be even slimmer
Okay.
than they already were. Much, much slimmer.
okay. But with this, so right now we've already somehow seen a glimpse of what it could be. Hindi natin alam how sustainable this is kasi like we said, they're young players, they're not really as, batak in the international scene yet. But given the success of this Gilas team, at least in their first tournament, do you think we're on the right path? They should just stick with this, or do you think that we still need some reinforcements from the pros, like PBA players?
I think talent-wise, definitely, if you put in even Junmar, Junmar, I think, is the best PBA player right now. I don't think he'll be as effective internationally, but he'll still be a step up. If you compare him to maybe, I don't know, syempre, kung papipiliin mo ko, Isaac Go or Junmar. Syempre, di ba, Junmar. But Gio Chu or Junmar. Gio, I coached Gio in the Eaglets, and he's good, he's awesome. He's gonna be even better than Isaac in a few years. I'm sure about that. Pero kung papipiliin mo ako ngayon, syempre, Junmar pipiliin ko, di ba? Or Japeth, or Troy Rosario. Di ba?
But pero strict si Tab eh.
Available. Yeah, that's the thing. The talent will be welcome, definitely. Even Coach Tab will welcome the influx of PBA talent. If 30 comes back and he's available, he'll welcome 30. If Kobe comes back and he's available and committed, he'll welcome Kobe. If, long shot, pero if Jordan Clarkson were available, I'm sure Coach Tab would be open to have him as well. But even more than talent, gaya nga nasabi ni Coach Tab, the most important thing is the system and the preparation. So if we're gonna put a PBA player or a set of PBA players in the final 12 and then just give them 10 days to train, I think that's gonna be counterproductive, actually. So, if players from like 30 or from the States or from the PBA are gonna be injected into the pool, it has to be really early, and they have to really be committed to it. No, so they have to. I'm not sure if they have to be in the bubble, but they have to really train with this team for, in my mind, at least 3 weeks at least to really get into the system. Because otherwise, I think it'll be counterproductive for the team.
But given, let's say, what hindi mangyari yun, kasi we all know that the PBA might not be willing to give out some of their players for that long, diba? Pero do you think this team could, because right now I think they're gonna go through the Olympic qualifiers ba to?
Yeah, OQT. It'll be next Wednesday. Thursday, madaling araw, Manila time, and then Friday, madaling araw, Manila time. They're gonna play Serbia una, Thursday, 2:15 a.m. Manila time. And then the following day, they're gonna play Dominican Republic as well. Yeah.
So that team, so now let's look at that team against the Europeans and the other nations, diba? How competitive kaya would this team be? Given that Serbia ba would have top players there or ano?
They're not. Boban's going to be there. Yes, Eric. Boban's going to be there. Bielitsa is going to be there. One of yung Kai Sotto nila, si Filip Petrusev, will be there. Kai Sotto actually played against him already. I think 3 years ago or 2 years ago in the Under-19 World Cup, parang ganun eh. But the MVP Jokic is not going to be there. I'm not sure if some of the other big names like Milos Teodosic, I'm not sure if he's going to be there. Si Milutinov, di ko rin alam. Pero it's Serbia. They're going to be a very good team. They're playing at home, and they've been in training camp for I think a month, and they've played I think in 1 or 2 pocket tournaments already. So condition sila, well prepared, well coached, playing at home. They have the advantage in talent, experience, and size. So to make the long story short, I don't think we're gonna win that game. I mean, I don't think we're gonna beat
If we
Serbia.
win that game,
Definitely.
dapat na.
Kung
May statue na.
kung matalo natin ng Serbia, kahit matalo tayo sa Dominican Republic, basta matalo natin Serbia, patayo na natin ng statwa sa Luneta.
Doon sa two teams na yun, Dominican bang quote unquote weaker team among the two?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, definitely Dominican Republic is
Sino ba PBA player, NBA player na Dominican Republic?
Well, they have 2 as far as I know, Karl Anthony Towns and Al Horford, but neither one is playing in the OQT. So
may chance ba tayo doon?
Yeah. Assuming that we will have the main key players, and I'm talking about Ange, Kai, Dwight. As long as those 3 and Balti, those 4. As long as those 4 main guys are healthy, I think we'll be competitive. Anyone else that you put around those 4 guys will be complementary players. No?
Yeah.
Still important, but complementary. Those are the 4 core guys, I think, because that's your front line. Your center, Ange, your power forward, Kai, your small forward, Balti. And I'm sure, JGT, you're probably happy about how Balti's performing right now. He's going to be a problem for the other 7 UAAP teams.
Magpapadraft na yun.
Grabe ka naman eh. Ako gusto ko makita si Balti. One more season sa UAAP.
Isang team lang, isang player lang. Diba? yung buong Ateneo, yun yung nagpanalo dun sa Korea eh.
And then, of course, si Dwight. So as long as those 4 guys are healthy, and on the floor, I think we'll be competitive against Dominican Republic. Medyo kinakabahan ako kasi it's on the news already, but Dwight's been dealing with it actually. I think even before the second game against Korea, he was already feeling some pain in the groin area. So hopefully, it heals up for him, and because we need him against those teams, no. If we don't have that 4, yung core na yun, I think baka kahit Dominican Republic, sobrang mahirapan tayo eh.
Pero what do we need? We need to win 2 games?
Well, the format is, so you have 6 teams in Serbia. You have Group A, which is Serbia, Philippines, Dominican. And in Group B, you have Italy, Puerto Rico, and Senegal. So round robin yun per small group. So you play 2 games. If you finish on the top 2, then crossover semifinals yun. Laglag ka pag ikaw yung bottom sa.
Okay, so we need to win 1 at least in the round robin.
We need to win at least 1. So if we lose to Serbia and then beat Dominican, we'll probably, if we go by the rankings, we'll probably face Italy in the crossover semifinal. Sobrang hirap pa rin no kasi Italy tinambakan tayo ng World Cup 2 years ago. I think 40 o 50 yung tambak natin, di ba? And but some of their other, but Bellinelli's not playing. Gallinari's still in the playoffs, so he's not gonna play in the OQT for sure. But that's still a very good Italy team, diba?
So we have beat Italy, then beat Serbia again. Malamang.
Yes.
Okay.
So sobrang talagang
And who makes it to the next round, or whoever wins ba here goes to the Olympics?
One spot only.
Yeah, only 1. So
only
of
1
the 6 teams.
Sayang.
Only 1 makes it. Sobra. Parang lulusot ka sa 4 na karayom, di ba? Para makapasok sa Olympics. But it makes sense because it's the Olympics. And we shouldn't even be here. Parang the Philippines didn't even qualify for this tournament.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna play here only for one reason, because New Zealand backed out. New Zealand was supposed to play here. They backed out because of COVID.
Parang last year yata yan eh, no? Na news.
Yeah. So parang
kinausap ni Tab yung New Zealand.
Pwede.
Ay, team niya yun dati, di ba?
Pwede. So now we're playing in the OQT. But even if we lose both games, and even if we lose by double digits, I still think it's gonna be a very good experience
Yeah,
for these guys. It's gonna help
yeah.
them, experience-wise, confidence-wise. It's gonna help them. And
For
for
sure.
me, the big goal this year is the Asia Cup. Or Asia Cup in August. That's where I really, really hope we do well in the coming Asia Cup.
So yung
Sana.
Asia Cup, Enzo, since yun nga, pupunta tayo sa Asia Cup, I guess the Olympic qualifiers, tama ka, it's more of exposure and training for the Asia Cup. So in Asia Cup, do you think ano pa tayo? Let's say this is the all cadet team. What rank are we realistically? Like, of course, Korea, China, Lebanon, these teams, nasaan ba tayo? Like, are we quarterfinals level? Or do you think medyo nasa 8-9 tayo with this team?
Very good question, Eric. Assuming no PBA players are added, assuming no United States-based players are added, assuming even 30 isn't added. So talaga ito lang yun. Itong best 12 who played in Clark will be the ones playing in the Asia Cup. I think we're top 8, but I'm not confident to put us beyond that, especially because Australia is going to be there. Even if they don't send their NBA guys, kahit puro NBL players yan.
They need to send Ben Simmons kasi. So
he needs confidence.
kaso hindi raw siya maglalaro, di ba? Ay, nasa Olympics pala yon.
Hindi rin maglalaro sa Asia Cup yun. I mean, ewan ko ba sa batang yun? Sobrang,
Australia.
I'm not Philly fan, but if you're a Philly fan, sobrang asar ka siguro kay Ben Simmons. Pero yun, as I was saying, so you have Australia, New Zealand's gonna be there. They're gonna be among the top 4. Of course, you always have Iran and China. The China that played here, like Korea, they were missing maybe 5 or 6 of their top level guys as well. So if they send their best, they're gonna be top 4. Korea, if they send their best, they're gonna be in maybe top 8 as well. Lebanon's there. Of course, we're gonna be there. Japan's gonna be there as well. Japan will not bring their NBA guys, but they're still gonna be a very good team. So, yun, 8 na yun. Wala pa rin yung Jordan, wala pa rin yung Kazakhstan na may laban din. Yung Bahrain na gumagaling kasi they have a naturalized player also.
Pero these teams or countries that you're talking about, Bahrain, previously we've somehow beat them easily, diba? I mean, kaya natin. Siguro at this point we're a little more confident na kaya pa rin natin, diba?
I think
or they got better, yes, pero medyo may confidence tayo na kahit paano kaya pa rin natin.
Oo naman. I mean, if you ask me what our chances are against, let's say, Bahrain or even Japan or Kazakhstan, I think we'd be favored, no? Especially again given the system we have and yung discipline ng mga batang to. I think we'll be favored against those teams. But once you face a full strength Iran or a full strength China or a full strength Korea, and then of course Australia and New Zealand, even Japan at full strength, dun tayo medyo 50-50, parang ganyan. Medyo dehado pa siguro tayo against those teams.
But do you expect them to be full strength? Kasi yung Asia Cup, I think, is non-bearing na, di ba? Walang incentive in a way for the winner of that tournament.
Yeah. I mean, before, if you win the Asia Cup, it means you get a guaranteed spot in the next World Cup or the next Olympics, depending on the year. But what FIBA did was they hindi tweaked it. They overhauled the entire system. So they patterned it a little bit like what they do with football. So in football, you have your UEFA European Championships. It has no real bearing on the World Cup or on the Olympics also. But just the prestige of being the best team in the continent for 4 years is enough. Yun yung medyo kakaiba ngayon kasi dati we'd
parang
have
Asian Games to, parang ganun.
Yeah, exactly. Parang we'd have the Asia Cup every 2 years. So relatively regular siya, 'di ba? So if you lose, okay, in 2 years, I can win again. Baka kabawi ako. Ngayon, if you miss this window to win, you're gonna have to wait an entire 4-year cycle to get another shot. So the value is in the scarcity of this tournament. Parang because it only comes every 4 years, you really have to parang give your best or make sure you put your best out there. Kasi that, yung window mo to win, konting-konti. For example, Ange Kwame is already 23 years old.
Yeah.
He'll only be able to play in maybe at most 3 Asia Cups this year, in 4 years when he's 27, and then who knows if he's still gonna be our naturalized player when he's 31, diba? So
Yeah.
so parang
Olympics na to eh.
Oh, parang ganoon yung dating niya na but once you realize that, oh my God, it's only every 4 years, I have to win now. Because if I don't win now, I'm gonna be
even a player
too
like
old.
even
Parang
if
ganyan.
a player like Kai Sotto, for example, baka hindi
Yeah,
mo rin alam kung how many Asia Cups will he be able to join kasi
That's true.
he
That's
has
true.
his own, 'di ba, goals in terms of his own basketball career. Pero curious ako, like we talked about PBA players potentially possibly joining the Gilas pool, no? Pero how do other countries do it? Like they have professional players. They have players who play in the NBA for some, 'di ba? And wala rin silang, hindi naman sila nakikitrain with their current national team, or they don't have a very long, like I'm sure if a player from the NBA would decide na sige, I'll join my national team, they'll take him, 'di ba? Like kunyari Jokic for example, or si Gallinari for example, assuming na umabot siya.
Hachimura.
Oh yeah, Hachimura. Hindi, tanggal si Hachimura eh. So may training siya. Pero let's say yung mga players like si Gallinari for example, bigla siya nag-decide na, assuming matanggal sila bigla before join ako, ganyan. They'll take him for sure. So how do the other countries do it with their national teams?
Well, before I get to the NBA guys, siguro with their local players muna. What's really different for other countries muna. For other countries, their professional leagues and maybe or take up only around 6 to 8 months. So they really have, parang 3 to
Window.
4 months, to train or to allot for the national team if they wanted to. And, they also adjusted to the international calendar. So parang pag sinabi ng FIBA na may window sa November and then sa February, most of the leagues, in other countries, they will,
Change their schedule.
fix their calendars to work around those windows. Again, that's something that in football is already very natural. In basketball, medyo may adjustment period pa. But a lot of other countries have been able to adjust to it already. In the Philippines, it's still something na parang hindi pa tayo ganun ka
In sync.
hindi pa natin nayayakap yung ganung sistema masyado. PBA, I'm not gonna mince words anymore. The PBA, we have the longest season in the entire world. I mean, we have 3 conferences and it lasts at least 10 months, at most 13, 14 months. And I think in one season, we extended for so long. So that alone does not really, allow much time for a national program to thrive if the national program wants to get, PBA talent. Sobrang hirap talaga. It's just not gonna work. So either parang the 2 main choices are you just accept that and do not get PBA talent, which is kind of what we're doing right now with the current Gilas team, or someone's got to really put his foot down and say PBA, you have to change. You have to drastically find a creative way to fix your calendar, to make sure it's in sync with with international standards, parang ganon, no? But if you ask
So
me to be completely honest, medyo mahirap yung second. Parang hindi ako sure kung ganun ka-open
willing.
lahat. I'm sure there are people in the PBA who are willing to explore that option, but I'm not sure if there are enough of those people to actually, make it happen at that level in the PBA.
Okay. And for the NBA guys, they just have
For the NBA
the
guys,
luxury of that NBA guys sila.
yeah. The main challenge when you're trying to bring an NBA guy to your national team is, especially in recent years, you have to make sure that you have insurance for that player. Meaning, you can assure, example, you can assure the Dallas Mavericks that whatever happens to Luka, sagot ng national team. Or may sasagot sa kung ano man mangyari sa kanya. Parang ganun. That's one reason why, in fact, I'm not sure if you guys read about it, but Dennis Schroeder, who's supposed to play for Germany, suddenly will not play for them anymore I think in one of the OQTs, because parang they were not able to reach an agreement on his insurance for this OQT. So he's not going to play.
The
I think
insurance
he
is
wants
like,
to.
yung insurance is parang if na-injure yan, you'll pay for whatever salary.
Yeah. Basically, that's it. No? Parang kung ma-injure itong NBA player na to, yung mother team niya in the NBA will be compensated in some way, shape, or form for that. But of course, that ang mahal nun, di ba? I mean, that mahal, hindi umura. So it's also a big risk for national teams to do that. No? But of course, if you're talking about the Olympics, medyo all bets are off. You're gonna try as, parang, syempre kukunin namin yung mga yan kung kaya. Parang gano'n.
Yeah. So mas mas madali for NBA players, but mas financially mas challenging in terms of
Pero in that same vein, and so you're more or less agree ka dun sa ginawa ng FIBA about this windows, yung mga qualifying windows. Kasi
I mean,
controversial yan di ba? I mean, for you think it's the right move?
Honestly, when I initially found out about it, because I found out about it pretty early, parang shortly after becoming a column, because they announced this 2014 pa eh. So shortly after becoming a columnist, I already knew something was gonna change big time. And initially, I was parang, is this gonna work? Parang, this has never been done for basketball before. So is this really gonna work? Parang ganyan. But now that I've seen how its effects, parang the smaller teams, yung teams na hindi masyadong hindi maganda, pero hindi yung image nila, hindi sila malakas. For example, Bahrain, or for example Saudi Arabia, all of a sudden they're playing high stakes games. They're getting their local fans really interested and excited. It's growing the game at the grassroots level, at the ground level. And instead of people getting excited only every 2 years for about 2 weeks, now, people are getting excited every window, which is around 2 to 3 times a year. And they're seeing high-level games at home kasi ang original format ito, home and away, diba? So they're getting to see high-level players, high-level games at home. It's drumming up interest. It's growing the game. That's the main objective naman, to grow the game.
Yeah.
Of course, it has a lot of challenges, diba? Scheduling, resources. Kasi sagot ng National Federation yung lipad papuntang for example, papuntang Serbia or papuntang wherever. So in terms of logistics, costing, scheduling, ang daming challenges talaga for a lot of countries, no? But the payoff, at least from my perspective, is you'll also get a lot more support because fan interest will grow. Grassroots development should be able to get a boost. So from my perspective, it's been able to hit its objective or serve its purpose.
Parang Guam, no? Parang
that's a good example, Eric. Yung Guam na, I mean, back in 2014, I'm not even sure anybody knew that Guam had a national team, diba? But now, all of a sudden, they're almost at the Asia Cup level. I think they only need maybe 1 or 2 wins in the wild card round to be able to reach the Asia Cup, diba? So, and we have a PBA player playing in Guam, actually, si Jericho Cruz, no? So,
Yeah.
the awareness, the excitement, the even the branding, so to speak, definitely has grown or has improved because of this new system.
Oh, so in relation dun sa tanong ko kanina about the how other countries do it with their own ano. So given that, 'di ba? We've seen ito mga medyo controversial sina Kiefer, 30 playing international not in the PBA but sa Japan in particular. And I've seen some tweets na marami pang susunod sa Japan yata.
Mukha. Oo.
Oo, kasi thinking about it now, that might benefit our players and getting them to the national team. Kasi if they are within, di ba, like other countries' leagues are in sync with the FIBA windows or the tournaments, then mas mabilis silang ipasok sa Gilas team natin for them to get yung makasabay nila yung current players. Tama ba? Better yon for some of our Gilas players. Well, not better in the sense that they're leaving the country, but do you think what's your take
Better
about
for the
these
program.
players? What's your take about these players going to the other countries to play?
Well, for me, it's a good thing. It's a net positive, diba? I mean, of course, we're not going to be able to see 30 play locally, at least for maybe 1 or 2 more years. I mean, I'm sure eventually he will play in the PBA. He said it himself. But again, it's a net positive for us because one, he's representing the country on a big stage internationally, and he's doing a good job with it. Two, I mean, on a personal level, he's doing really well for himself, but career
Yeah.
wise, he's expanding his horizons, expanding his network. His name is not only known in one country but in Japan already. He's earning a lot over there, at least 2 or 3 times more than what he'd initially earned in the PBA. And like what you said, he is free to go back and play for the national team. It's not going to be an issue. I know for a fact that in Japan, in their actual contract, they have a FIBA clause na during the FIBA windows, you may go back to your country to play for the national team. It's explicitly right there
Mm.
in their contract. I'm not sure if it's the same in a PBA contract. I've never seen a PBA contract myself, so I'm not sure if there's even a clause like that. No, maybe I'm not so sure. I hope it's there, but again, I'm not so sure. But for many of these countries, it's the same with Japan because they've adjusted to the international calendar. If for example, let's say Ange or Dwight plays internationally, whether it's in Australia, Japan, Korea, Europe, or wherever, they'll have the opportunity to come back during the windows,
Yeah.
practice, and play for the Philippine national team. And that's a given. It's not even going to be the slightest issue. Siguro magiging issue lang is kung ma-injure or kung maybe that's the only issue or kukunin ba sa'yo ng coach, diba? But in terms of availability, for sure they'll be available. So again, it's a net
So
positive for me.
the FIBA clause, that's for imports or for everybody that's playing in the B League.
For everyone. I mean, it's
Si, si
it's
30
part
is
of
an import
it.
there, no?
He's
Asian-
counted as an Asian import. What's different? Another thing that's different between the PBA and many other leagues is, in many other leagues, they allow more than one import. I mean, in the PBA, kasi sanay na tayo, diba? Only one import lang in the PBA. In Japan, they can have as many as, if I'm not mistaken, as many as 5.
Dami,
So
ah.
that's 4.
That's pretty much your starting 5.
Yeah, that's 4 international, that's for like world imports, any nationality. And then you can have an Asian quota import or an Asian import. And then may parang ano pa sila may parang allotment pa sila for parang players with Japanese heritage. Parang sa atin mga Phil-Am, parang gano'n.
Oo.
So may ganun silang schemes. But they try to balance it out kasi let's say you do have four or five imports, diba? The American or world imports or European imports cannot play at the same time. They
Parang
can
yung
only,
rule dito sa UAAP.
yeah, parang yung
You're
dating rule.
an
Yes.
import,
Yeah.
yes. Oo.
The Asian import can play anytime. But the world imports cannot play at the same time until you get to the fourth quarter. So pagdating ng fourth quarter, doon mo na pwedeng, pagsama yung mga yan if you want it, if you want. Pero most of the time, ang na-observe ko sa Japanese, sa coaches sa B League is they only really, even if they have like 3 or 4 world imports, they stick to only maybe around 2, and then the rest are local guys already.
Ang laro ba sa Asian in particular, Asian Pro Leagues, are similar to how the FIBA rules are? Kasi like PBA is pretty much patterned over the NBA game,
Yeah,
diba? Like mga pick and rolls, and then lesser on the ball movement, mas konti on ball movement, mas more on isolations and sa other pro leagues ba in the Asian countries. Kasi we know sa Europe ganun sila. I mean, they play yung ikot ng bola, movements, diba? Sa other Asian countries ba ganun din?
Yeah, especially if you talk about the top level Asian leagues. Pero may subtle differences din eh. Para, for example, it's like what you said, the PBA is such a different animal because we're patterned after the NBA, which is kind of counterproductive if you ask me. Even Coach Tab has mentioned it before in one of his guest things. It's a little strange that we're patterning our system after the American system when the talent level is just so far. So medyo weird yun. If you're talking about maybe Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Korea, it's even Iran and Lebanon, the Western Asian teams, it's a little closer to the European style. Na mas maraming sets, mas maraming ball movement, mas maraming screen to set a shooter free, those kinds of things. China, though, is a little different. The CBA actually feels a little bit more like the NBA. Yung parang a lot more focus on entertainment and excitement, and yes, individual play. That's why a lot of former NBA players
sobrang nagka-thrive doon eh.
Find it comfortable playing in the CBA because the pay is good. The structure of the league is kind of similar. You have home and away format, and then the style of play is also closer to the NBA than it is to the European style of play. But mostly.
So sa China, that's their top league. That's one of their top leagues, tama? Yung or lahat ng leagues nila mostly gano'n. Kasi it's very interesting for me to see, like I would assume na China is being one of the powerhouse of basketball. So, the way they play is not really the NBA type of game we see, diba? So, tayo kasi, when we put in PBA players to the Gilas, ganun nangyayari. We're basing it, we're doing the talent for talent type of laban diba? Sa China, kahit na they have the talent, if you watch them play, the national team, hindi sila ganun eh. Pero interesting for me that their pro leagues are like that.
Yeah, their pro leagues are like that because their pro leagues are also very the style that they have in the CBA. They're very reliant on their imports. So that's why you have Jimmer Fredette scoring 50 plus points. Yung mga ganyan. It's very commonplace in the CBA to find imports scoring so heavily, scoring in bunches like that.
So yung national team nila really have the training, months of training for them to be incorporated within the system?
That's actually a very interesting question because the national team we're seeing right now, parang based on the people I know from China, they're not so happy with it because for them, parang yung glory days nila nung China are in the past na. Yung mga, time pa ni Yao and ni Wang Jiji, yung 80s, 90s until early thousands, diba? That was when they were really invincible, unbeatable.
Yeah.
But now that they have, ang weird kasi now that they have a thriving professional league with so much excitement and so many big names, now their national team is not as consistent as before.
Mm-hmm.
But for a lot of Chinese fans, they feel like the national team has been overtaken by Iran.
Yeah.
Sometimes they even say that they've been overtaken by Korea.
Yeah.
That the Philippines is more exciting. Parang may mga ganyang comments pa minsan eh. Their national team is still very good, but it's really dependent na on the talent that they bring and the coach that they have. They're kind of lucky right now because their coach Du Fang, he's a veteran player. He used to play with Yao Ming before, and he's a very good coach. Tactician talaga siya. So yung galawan nila maganda. If you watch the Chinese team from 2013 in particular and 2017, those two teams were very one-on-one heavy, very ISO heavy teams. And those teams did not do well in the Asia Cup. In 2013, they lost to Taiwan, Chinese Taipei, which is kind of like one of their rivals. Parang ganyan, diba? I mean, we all know the situation between those two territories or countries, diba? So that was a big boo-boo for the national team, no? And then in 2017, they lost to us. That was in Lebanon. They lost to us, and they didn't even finish in the top 4 of the Asia Cup in 2017, and they were the defending champions. So, parang another big blow. Issue, big blow to their national program, which is why ever since then they've tried to really fix it. They've tried to, instead of getting foreign coaches to coach the national team, they've stuck with a well-known local coach with experience already. Ito nga si Du Fang, and they've tried to build their young guns or their young core already. I think in the coming Asia Cup, they're going to have a stronger team. I think they're going to be gunning for gold or bust because I think they want to prove na we're China. They're still
the powerhouse.
Yeah,
in the Asian.
may magaling na Australia, may magaling na Iran, pero don't forget about us. I think that's going to be their mindset going into this tournament.
Pero is it true na they would ban imports already in the next few years?
I'm not sure about banning. I think they only banned imports right now because of the pandemic, because of how difficult it was.
Okay.
I think in the previous season kasi, which was already in the pandemic, they had some issues with imports coming in, parang nahirapan. So right now, until things clear up, it's gonna be all locals muna.
Sino Marbury still playing ba sa China?
Marbury is not playing anymore. He owns one of the teams. He owns Beijing.
Yung level na pala si Marbury.
Iba na siya.
Owner na.
He has Beijing has 2 teams in the CBA, the Ducks and a team that I can't pronounce what their moniker is. Basta si Marbury, he played for the Ducks, but now he's an owner of the other
Beijing team.
Kumbaga parang he played for the Lakers, but now he owns the Clippers. Parang ganun.
Parang si D-Wade.
Parang ganun.
Parang si D-Wade. And si Jimmer.
Si Jimmer
still playing.
I'm not sure for whom he played the last.
Pero he's an import.
Alam ko he's still an import. In the previous season, he was still an import in the CBA.
So going back to the PBA, and this thing sa Asia. So the PBA be worried na, ito nga, you're saying na the pay is higher. Di ba?
Yeah, confirmed yun. It's much higher in the B
Even
League.
in Korea, China, Japan, all these things.
Based
So,
sa contract
yes.
yun assume.
Yes.
Ano
Yes.
sa
Yes.
PBA, di ba?
even yung under the table na PBA, I think higher pa rin ng Japan. I think.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
assuming all the rumors we hear about PBA payments are true, assuming, and that's a big assumption. But assuming, let's say, a top level PBA player gets $500,000 on paper in his contract a month, every win may dagdag yan. If you advance to the quarterfinals, may dagdag yan. If you advance to the semifinals, the finals, the championship, every level, every tier, may
And
dagdag
yung
yan.
individual accolades pa.
Tapos syempre may konting nakasobreng thank you or nakapasok na sa backpack, iuwi mo na lang yung backpack, mga ganun. Marami yan. Let's say aabot yan ng $1 million a month.
Okay.
Ang laki nun. I don't think it will reach that much, but let's say umabot ng $1 million a month. Yung kikitain mo in Japan, if you're a Division 1 or top level, or first league player, would still be more than that, significantly. So,
malaki din yun,
monetarily, it makes complete sense. Of course, you can argue, but the quality of living or the cost of living is higher in Japan. Oo, tama, but you're not living there. Your family's here. So, you're there, sagot ng team mo yung lodging mo, yung board mo, and ipon ka ng ipon. Pag uwi mo dito, your spending power is, 3 times, already.
The usual, OFW story.
Exactly. So,
the only challenge is that nandun ka and then your family's here. So, yung distance lang with your family ang challenge.
So, given that, should the PBA be worried? I mean,
I think,
how should the PBA take this kung ganun? Parang nare-raid yung players.
Yeah, I think the PBA really has 2 doors. Door A, Door B. Door A, they can be extremely defensive and protective. And they can double down on saying things like, we own your player rights even if you have no live contract with us anymore.
Which is what's happening to Kiefer. Well,
Kiefer
may live contract.
That's what's happening with Ray Parks. And, even before with Greg Slaughter. So at least that's the impression that a lot of fans get. And then they can also be very aggressive in telling amateur players, okay, if you want to be drafted in the PBA, you can play elsewhere. Sa amin lang muna. They can do that. They haven't done that yet, but they can do that if they wanted to be very protective and very defensive. That's door A. Door B, they can be progressive. Okay? They can revisit their systems and their contracts and tweak them so that they can be better aligned with, how shall I say it, with global norms or global standards. They can do that. They can be progressive and do that. For me personally, I hope they go door B, not door A.
But how do you
there are
contract like that? Like, example, paano mo i-tweak yung contract? Like, may out clause, ganun? Or they can play simultaneously between...
Hindi, may mga niyan, feeling ko they will suffer first before they can get to door B. Kasi most likely mangyari, if they open the door dun sa door B na sinasabi ni Enzo, a lot of PBA players will first jump ship to the other leagues. Kasi yun yung na-open na yung floodgates for you to be able to join other leagues. So, mangyayari muna yon before they can change yung whatever the contracts are or the scheduling maybe. Kasi, like sabi ni Enzo, the scheduling is 10 months for sa PBA or even 13, di ba, nung nag-extend. And sa other countries, ilang months lang di ba? 6-8 months.
Yeah.
You are paid significantly more pa. So, so parang 6-8 months work sa other countries, dito 10 to 12 months na work yun. So,
pero
talagang ang
Ayun.
laki ng tweak na kailangan nilang gawin if they do
Ang
that.
ibig sabihin, Enzo, in other countries like in Japan, yung contract nila, they can play, let's say, sa off-season in another league. Is that...
They have that because that's the global norm. They do have like a
Parang transfers
players.
yan eh.
Yes, exactly. They can be loaned or
Okay.
bought out. They can be loaned or bought out. And honestly, that can be added to the contracts in the PBA. I think. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but at least I've spoken to a couple who say that it's possible to do that if the league as a legal entity
Would want
chooses
that, yeah.
chooses to do that or allows the teams
Okay.
to do that. It's
Pero
possible to do
I
that.
get the Kiefer situation kasi may live contract si Kiefer. Diba?
Yeah.
But let's say Ray Parks, let's say lang, I know he's not eligible, I think, for the Asian quota or whatever. Pero let's say na a Japanese team would get him. Legal for the PBA to say na we're not gonna release you from your rights, playing rights. We will not release your playing rights. That's legal for the PBA to do that. In FIBA,
I think it is legal from the PBA's perspective, and they will probably assert that. But the problem with not problem, but what makes Parks' situation different from my perspective is yun nga, wala siyang live contract. Eh.
Yeah.
So from the eyes of the B League or any other league who wants to get him,
He's a
and
free
let's
agent.
say from the eyes of an international third party arbiter or organization, no live contract. So
you should
he can
really.
play. He should be able to play. Parang ganyan.
Okay.
But if the PBA says, oh, but we have rights to him, I'm not even sure what those rights mean. Eh. Parang, does that mean...
Hindi lang yata sa PBA, even the team has the rights.
Yeah. Actually, it's the team that has the rights to the players. Honestly, I'm not even sure what rights means. Does that mean, let's say, if an NBA team offers Ray Parks a spot, the PBA team who owns his rights, do they have the right of first refusal? Is that what it means? I'm not even sure if it's that. Eh. Kaya malabo for me. Eh. But from the eyes of a third party or an international entity, parang ano talaga yun? Parang ang labo naman ito. Parang how is this fair to the athlete or to
pero
the
it's accurate to say na if they want to play even without a live contract, they have to get a release form, right, from their previous team. Parang something
based on that the rights thing, they have to get a release from their previous team, even if they're no longer getting any compensation or benefits from that team.
Even if expired contract.
Even if it's an expired contract already, they have to get a release. Again, diba, from the perspective of regular employees or regular people, that doesn't really make a lot of sense, diba? I mean, why do you have to get a release from you? But apparently, that's the way the contracts in the PBA kind of work. So,
and yun, mangyayari dyan, a lot of, lalo na, itong, let's say the Gilas pool right now that we have, these are college players and they've seen what 30 did, and I'm sure they will be exploring that option as well. Especially now that they get international exposures. Diba?
Yeah.
Other countries are looking at these players like Dwight Ramos na, okay to, pwede natin makuha to. And then they'll just offer them. So magiging threat talaga yan sa PBA. So again, medyo mahaba-habang proseso pa dadaanan ni PBA for them to be able to get it. Lastly, let's talk about Kai Sotto for a bit. How do you assess Kai Sotto's performance so far with the Gilas? He didn't play as much, I guess. They used Kwame more sa center position. But how do you assess his progress over since the last time you've seen him? Oh, you've coached him, diba? Sa
Yeah, sa Eaglets. Yeah.
So how's the progression so far?
I'm very impressed. I mean, to be honest, I didn't even expect him to play in that first game because he came into the bubble I think 7 or 8 days before they went to Clark. So I was a little anxious about whether he'd actually be inserted into that first game against Korea. But one thing that Kai's always been, that's always been his strength, aside from of course his size and his innate skill. Kai is a smart He's a smart kid, to be honest. Even in Ateneo, um, many of his teachers, even his math teachers, science teachers, they tell me na if Kai did not have basketball, he could actually be an honor student. I mean, may utak talaga yung bata. Mabilis ang pick up ng bata. If it's basketball or nag-volleyball pa yan pag PE sa Ateneo. I mean, kung nakita ng mga volleyball coaches so si Kai na mag-volleyball, parang isipin nila, uy,
Pwede.
may ano to.
Pwede.
Gagana na lang.
Oo, ano talaga siya. Mabilis matuto, mabilis mag-pick up. So when Coach Tab said na his basketball IQ is very high, and it's very accurate. So that's one thing that's really working for Kai right now. The most impressive thing for me that I saw was, I guess, defensively. Kasi offensively, yung nakakababa siya ng bola, he can attack facing the basket. It's something kaming mga medyo who've seen him for a few years, who've coached him, we're not too surprised by that. We knew that he always had that in his bag. Yeah. But defensively, I think I was really impressed na he was able to compete with, especially with Korea, no? And even with Indonesia against Leicester Prosper. Kasi isa sa mga points of improvement ni Kai after when he left Ateneo to go to the States was really defending quicker guys, quicker, whether it's quicker big men or if you had to switch on a pick and roll, defending wingmen. That was really one of the main areas to improve for him. And I think so far he's improved. No, I wouldn't say he's elite yet at that side of his game, but ang laki ng improvement niya from the last time that we saw. No, he can medyo nakakasabay siya against some wings, and against mobile bigs he can compete also. So that's what really impressed me when I saw him at the bubble, and I hope he continues that. Kasi I don't think any coach naman has anything bad to say about his offense, but it's really his defense where a lot of coaches at the NBA, at the European level, or at the Australian level maybe even, are probably looking at his defense and saying, okay, we need to work on this, we need to work on that. So I hope he continues to improve.
So you mean sa defense, he just relies on his height at this point? Parang before, kasi syempre kahit papaano, if you're really tall, may advantage ka rin di ba? Like especially in high school. Kasi sa high school, I'm sure yung mga kalaban ni Kai doon, mga talagang madali lang sa kanyang supalpalin yung mga yon, di ba? But of course, in the big leagues, medyo mas mahirap ng konti kasi they can exploit you in your defense. Yeah, I mean in high school definitely Kai's size, if he relied only on his size, he'd be dominant, and he was dominant, no? But he always had some trouble against quicker bigs. Example would be Carl Tamayo of NU. Every time we'd face NU, we'd face Carl Tamayo and Kevin Kiambao, who's now in LaSalle. I mean, these are smart, mobile, agile bigs, and they would be a problem for Kai and for Gio because they played together. We're bigger, we're longer, pero hirap kami against them. But now seeing Kai and even Gio against Ratliff, who's not as big but still quick and agile, and Prospero's an agile 6'9" big. I was impressed with how Kai was able to compete against them, and so I hope he continues that. So do you think the Australian League is a good move for Kai? Definitely, it's the next step. Yeah, I mean, I kind of felt, honestly, before he left, I kind of felt that Europe would probably be
the best in terms of player development. In terms of player development. But of course, there are other factors like family, comfort zone
Yeah.
din niya. That's why I wasn't surprised when when he went to the US. I would have really wanted to see him in the G League, to compete against NBA caliber talent. Sayang, we were not able to see that. But the next best thing, if your top two choices are NBA Europe, honestly, NBL would be right there at the third spot. So NBL for me was a very, very good landing spot for Kai. And the NBL has a good track record of developing players and then having them get drafted or get picked up in the NBA and having those players contribute, at the NBA level. No? Of course, most recently si Lamelo Ball ang magandang
Yeah.
example dyan, di ba?
Sino pa ba yung iba before? Meron ba?
Yeah, there was one guy before, Oklahoma City siya eh. After he played in the NBA, he got drafted Oklahoma City, and then he's a contributor. I forgot his name. But they do have that track record of developing players and then getting them ready for the next level. And hopefully, Kai will be the next in line for that. I think he'll be in good hands in Australia with the Adelaide 36ers. And he's going to go up against guys who are as big as him. I mean, as tall as him, but bigger than him.
Yeah.
And who probably will be as mobile or even more mobile than he is. So I think it's going to be a really good experience for him over there in Australia. And of course, we have a pretty considerable Filipino population in Australia. So I'm sure he's going to get some fans there as well. So it's not going to be a big, strange, totally alien environment for him in Australia. So there you
Last
go.
na about Kai, how close do you think he gets to being in the NBA?
Well, honestly, I think he'll get there. I think he'll get drafted. I'm 70% confident he's going to get drafted. But even if he doesn't get drafted, I'm sure at some point he'll get picked up by an NBA team, and he'll be able to play, at that level, at that stage. I'm not sure if he'll be the first one because we have AJ Edu in the NCAA, who I think if he stays healthy can also get to the NBA. So feeling ko mag-uunahan yung dalawang yun eh. But I'm confident that as long as he stays healthy, Kai eventually will play for an NBA team in an NBA season, whether it's a 10-day contract, whatever, he'll be able to play there eventually, assuming he stays healthy.
Yeah, well, keeping our fingers crossed, of course. First homegrown Filipino player to step in the NBA court, diba? Kahit nga sabi mo 10-day contract, that's a big deal. That's a big breakthrough na for us. Kasi, the closest we've got was, sino ba? Johnny Abarientos.
I'm not even sure if that were true, di ba? Kasi
true daw eh. Sabi ni Tim Cone, di ba? Na-scout talaga siya.
Pero papayagan ba siya? Kasi di ba, hindi pwede. Kasi
I think
walang out clause, hindi natin alam.
Pero I think the PBA would give an exception to the NBA.
Pwede,
medyo,
diba?
Kasi di ba NBA yan
pwede,
imagine if you are the owner who prevents your player to go to the NBA, di ba? Parang,
bad PR yun, di ba?
Oo, di ba? Parang,
pwede.
Hindi mo papayagan yan? Imposible. It's the NBA, it's a different level. Anyway, Enzo, sobrang, we got a lot of insights about the international game. Ganda yung pinag-usapan natin about how the other countries are doing it kasi we don't, so that we can understand rin bakit ba galing rin ng other countries and how other countries are continue to improve, 'di ba? Kasi parang even the like kinukwento nga sa akin ni Eric, even Indonesia, Thailand, they've been improving.
Yeah, that's true.
Getting the gap closer to the Philippine basketball. So tayo, parang for the longest time we've stayed nagplateau na tayo eh, 'di ba? Kasi parang we got to the World Cup pero we used the same process. It's just that maybe here and there we got a little lucky rin. helps, may konting luck involved eh. But, the system, I guess, ngayon pa lang ulit nagsisimula. So hopefully we get there and hopefully this Gilas team would make us proud. Enzo, thank you very much for joining us. Alam ko medyo
Thank you,
mahaba.
Enzo.
Thank you
You'd
very
like
much.
to plug your where can they read your stuff, your articles and your blog?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can just follow me on Twitter at Hoopnut, Instagram at the Hoopnut. Medyo kakaiba kasi may ibang Hoopnut na dati sa Instagram. And then, just, I write for Tiebreaker Times and FIBA. So just watch out for those columns to come out. And then there you go. And I hope you can all continue to support Philippine basketball, whether it's Gilas, PBA, UAAP, NCAA. Hopefully, things will continue to evolve moving forward, get better, diba? And
Yeah.
thank you to Jeremy and to Eric. Eric, nice to see you again.
Nice to you.
I'm happy to know you guys have this really, really good podcast. And more power to you guys. And of course, as always, keep safe and take care, everyone.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Enzo. All right. That's it for our weekly episode of Fantasy Benchwarmers. We'll see you again on our playoff roundup every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to talk about the NBA playoffs. We'll see you then. Bye, guys.
Bye.